So define the controller equal to customer service controller Apex form. So I would like to place the account fields. Let me write the logic. You already know, so we already did in developer classes. So I'm creating an instance for the account and initialize the instance, and using this instance I can place the account fields. Page block, let's say title equal to new customer. Page block section, so I would like to page block section, I would like to take different sections. One is for the personal information, and another one is for address information, and another one is for additional information. So you can use the tab style if you wanted to. By default the colors will be applied from the home tab. So if you wanted to change, tab style equal to account, you know this part. So let me include the columns. Input field value equal to obj a dot name, the first column, and obj a dot phone, second column. Let's say city and country. I would like to add only two columns here. In the address section, one is building country and another one is building city, and the description section, description. Save it. So it's an input field, not a file. Input field. See, the columns are. I would like to place a button. Value equal to save and action equal to some action method. Do save. Save it. So need to create an action method in the controller for it. So this is a normal programming. So even you know how to create a record, how to create a customer record from the Apex. This is a normal approach. But as per our requirement, so once the record is created, I would like to create a record in the source organization as well. So these are the steps. So this is the target organization. I enter the data, and once I click on save button, the record needs to be created in the source organization. So what are the steps we have to follow? So one is connection. Establish the connection to the source org. And another one is pass the parameters. So what are the parameters that you should send? One is customer name, customer phone number, and billing city. The reason is your service expecting this parameter. So you wrote a service in the source organization, and your service expecting these three parameters. So what is a connection? For the connection we are using a partner visual. So just go to the partner visual now. So just go to the partner classes I created. So check the partner visual. So this is the generated class, seems very bigger, so this is very bigger one. So my class name is partner soap s4scom. So in this class name, so this is the main class. In this class name you have a subclass called soap. Just search for it. So here is the soap. So this is a subclass, and inside of this subclass you have, so you have the login method. So just search for your login method. So this is a login method. You just need this method. So this login method expecting username and password. So you have to pass, so which is nothing but in your partner class. So you have the login method, and the return type is partner soap login result. Login result is a return type. And when you check for the login result, when you check for the login result, so in this login result you have the session ID. So once you make the connection, then only you get the login result. As a part of the login result you get the session ID. So we need session ID to make the call out, to your custom service. So what are the steps you have to follow? The first one is you have to create an instance for the inner class you have. So the inner class is a soap. Soap is an inner class. So let me copy the entire logic first. So this is a pre-built class. So once you generate a partner visual, Salesforce generates this class. So once you generate the class from the partner visual, this is a class. So in this, your main class is partner soap s4scom. So which is your class name dot, and subclass is soap. Soap is a subclass. You can just search for the soap. So this is a subclass, and inside of the subclass you have the login result. So you have the different methods. See how many methods you have. So your method is login result. Login result is for authentication. So you see delete result is the one, and here is the login result, which is a part of the subclass. See login. So subclass is soap. Soap is a subclass, and you create an instance for it, because we are going to call the login method. So to call the login method, so just to create my partner some soap is a variable new. So just creating, in object oriented programming, to call any method, so we have to create an instance. I'm just creating an instance for the soap class, because soap is a part of the partner soap s4scom. Partner soap s4scom is a parent class, and soap is a subclass, and inside of the soap I have the login method. So that's why I'm just creating an instance, and using this instance, so this is an instance, and using this instance I can call login method login, and use the parameters, connection parameters. So what are the parameters you require? So first one is username and password and security token. You have to pass these three parameters. Just to copy these two lines. So this is for connection. So go to the target arc. So here the first one is connection. To make the connection you have to write this logic. And what is the user credentials? The first one is your username. So my source username is, so it's a nara25@gmail.com, and what is the password? And my password is test@123. And what is your security token? So addition to the password, it requires a security token in the authentication. So here is a security token. Copy this and use here. So I'm using the security token. So this is the connection parameter. So once you call this method, what is the response you get? So your response is login result. If you go to the partner visual generated class you have, you get this response. Login result is your response. So you have to capture the response first. Copy it, because as a part of the response you get the session ID. So this is for partner login result. So if you want to check this, just put the debug system.debug. I would like to check so what exactly this partner result is. I would like to add a debug. So if you wanted to check what is your debug statement, I mean what is your session ID. So because showed you. So in this login result, so if you go to the login result class in your generated visual, in your generated class, so you see the session ID. So which means login result dot session ID. If you wanted to check what is your session ID, you just add one more debug system dot debug. Session ID is your connection variable, your login result parameter is partner login result dot, and what is the parameter? So here is the session ID. So it generates the session ID. So you need a session ID in order to call any service, in order to call custom service. So this is the connection part. So once the connection is successful, you get the session ID. So let me test my connection. Save this, and I would like to enable the debug log. So for this user, just debug log, delete all existing logs, so just delete all the existing logs, and I would like to enable the logs for this current user, so that what are the logic I execute in this environment, I get the log file. So for verification, see, I'm just entering. So as of now I did not perform any DML operation, just wanted to check how the connection is. I'm entering the customer name and the phone number and the country and city and the description. So when I click on save button, just click on it. I just clicked on save button. So when I click on save button, this action executes, and go to the debug log and refresh the existing screen. So here is a log file, you see. Just click on view and check the connection parameter. Yeah, so I'm able to generate the session ID, which means the connection is successful. So you have to pass the valid parameters. So in login result, one of the parameter is session ID. So I could see my session ID. So this is the session ID. Once you have the session ID, you can connect it to your custom service. Because I'm using the valid username, I'm using the valid password and valid security token. So the connection is successful. You can see the connection. So you get all the connection parameters. So once the connection is successful, so what is the next step? So I'm able to connect it to my Salesforce organization, which means I'm able to connect it to source organization. So connection is successful. Then, so once a connection is successful, then so you can call your custom service. Now go to your custom service class. So this partner visual is just for connection. So we are just using the login result method to by passing the valid parameters. Now go to the another service, another class you wrote. So another class is SOAP S4 COM schema class account service. Go there, and this in this class also, so you have a specific method. See, so your class is account service. In the account service class, you have a method called create customer. So this is your service, account service. Account service is the inner class, and you have the create customer, and this create customer expecting three parameters: name, city, name. You have to pass in the same order, otherwise so it won't invoke. So it will throw an error, because in the phone column you cannot enter the city. So you have to pass how the service is, and the main class is. So what is the main class? So this is the main class. So this is an outer class. So this is an outer class, and this is an inner class, and inside of the class this is a method. The first thing is you have to create an instance for your inner class, because you need to if you want to call this create customer method, you have to create an instance. So this is your outer class. I'm creating an instance for it. So outer class dot inner class and variable equal to new. You can declare any variable, outer class dot inner class. This is just an instance. So because using this instance, you can call your custom method. And so if you observe in this particular account service, so if you observe in this particular method, you have one more parameter. So this is your account service. In this account service, so you find the session header. Somewhere you find the session header. So see, this is the session header. So you have to pass the session header as well. So session header is an important one, and you get the session header, so by you get the session header from the session header object. So how can you do this? So first I would like to, so this is the session ID. Just to collect the session ID, so we'll use the session ID later. And the thing is, so you have to consider the session header element. So in your controller, just search for this session header element, because you have to, yeah. So this is the session header element. For this session header element, you have to pass the session ID. So a required parameter is session ID. This session header element has a parameter session ID. What is the session ID you get? What is the session ID you get in the partner visual? You have to pass the session ID to this session header element. How can you do that? So just copy this session header element. So I'm just copying this, and your main class is, this is your main class, and your subclass is session header element. I'm going to create I'm going to create an instance for it. So you can define any instance, web service session header equal to new, the same parameter I am using, so which is the one, just to copy. So this is the instance, just I'm declaring an instance. So this is an instance where I can pass the session ID. So this is a variable session, a web service session header dot session ID, so which is a parameter in this particular subclass. So if you go to this, so here is a parameter session ID. So session ID equal to the session ID you get here. So just assign the session ID. So this is the steps you have to understand. The first thing is using a partner digital, you generate the session ID after connection. The session ID you have to pass to your custom service because you are calling from this organization. You can call it after the authentication. So that's why I'm passing the session ID. So once the session ID, once you pass the session ID, so you can create an instance, an instance, so where you can pass the parameters. So this is an instance for your subclass. So this is an instance. So account service and create customer is your method name. So to call this, I just created an instance for the account service. Still account service, I am able to create an instance. Then what is the step? So you have the web service session header. So you need to pass this web service session header. So you need to pass this web service session header to this session header. So interchange the session header to this session header. Obj a1 dot. So here you have the session header. So just to pass it. Just to pass it. Then using this obj a1. So once you pass the session header, actually this is the session header from session header element. So once you pass this session header, you can call the custom web service using your obj a1. So how can you call this? So using an instance, so obj a1 dot, and what is your method? Just to go to the method you have. So in this my method name is create customer. Just to copy the method, and this method expect 3 parameters, and the first one is name. You can pass the name like this, obj.name. Second parameter obj.phone. Third parameter building city, and this invokes source method. Source method is your web service method. So in the web service method, so we are just returning the status. So if status equal to success, so we get the success. If we get the success from the Apex web service, then insert the same customer here also, because this statement itself, so this statement itself taken care the source creation, source customer creation. So string, so obj a1 dot create customer. So we're just passing the parameters name, phone, and city to the service you wrote. So this is a service. So we are just calling the source method by passing the required parameters, where you can insert the record. Once the record is created, once the record is successfully created, I'm passing the response back. So I am comparing this response. If the response equal to success, then only insert the record in the target arg as well. So then once the record is created, so either you can just display some error message if you want, like this. If obj a dot id not equal to null, which means the customer is successfully created. So you can just pass status equal to, or you can use status message equal to customer created successfully. So you can just display this message in your Visualforce page. So you have to declare as a string variable public string status message getter and setter. Initially the status message is null. Just nullify this. So you just use the status message on top of the page. Just this is a status message. It's a sample message. Value equal to status message, and also use style color green, font size 20 pixels, font weight bold, or else you can also use the page message class to display the status. So this is a smaller text I would like to display once a record is created even in the customer object. So test the application now. So I'm going to create a customer record. Let's say my customer is Amazon services, and what is the phone number. So you can just enter any phone number, and what is the billing country, what is the billing city, and what is the customer description, new customer. When I click on save button, just click on it, just observe what happens here. So I can see the customer created successfully message, which means the customer is successfully created in both the systems. Verify, go to accounts, Amazon services I have, which means I got success response from the source organization. Now go to source organization, click on your accounts, you should see the same record, Amazon services, which is created. Both are different organization, both are the different systems, but I am able to create the same record in both the systems. So just creating a record from target to the source organizations. Let me give you an overview now. Now it will be more clear. So we are just using the SOAP integration. So as a part of the SOAP integration, we have to use the web services. So that is the web service description language we call visuals. The communication happens. So the communication will be done using the visual. So if you use the visual communication, the integration is called a SOAP integration. It can handle the bulk responses, and we are considering two Salesforce organization as a part of the integration. So you can consider either SAP system, or you can consider SQL Server. As of now, we don't have the different systems. That's why I have considered even source and target as a Salesforce. So in source organization, what are the things we did first? So generate a partner visual and write a Apex web service class, and then generate a visual for your Apex service as well. So which means in the source organization there are two visuals. There are two visuals, one for connection and one for receiving the data. Addition to that, you need authentication parameter like user, password and security token. And once you are done with the source steps, you have to generate the classes for partner visual and web service visual in the target. So here is the class for the partner visual, and here is the class for the web service visual. So that is the first step. You have to generate the classes in the target arc. So once the classes are generated, so using these two classes, using the partner class, you can make the connection. See the second step. In the second step, this is the connection. We are able to connect, and once the connection is done, we are able to generate the session ID. So you have to use the session ID along with header element to call the custom web service. So what I did is, in the second step, so using partner visual, I was connected to the source organization, and using a web service class, I was connected to this web service. So once you connected to Salesforce organization from the target, once you connected to source organization from the target, so you get as a connection result, as a login result, you get the session ID, and you have to pass the session ID to this class to hit the methods, because session ID and session header is the required parameters to hit the custom web service. So that I did, and able to pass the required parameters at the same time. So in this web service I wrote a logic where this service receives the required parameters from the target and creates a customer record. And once the customer is created, I'm sending back the success response. So once the response is success, then I'm able to I would like to create the same record in the customer. So in case if you get any errors, so while creating the customer in the source, I don't need to create in the same customer in the target, because once we get the confirmation from the source, then only I create a record in the target. So once the record is created, I just displayed a status message saying that the customer is created successfully. So this entire communication will be done using the visual file. So the visual communication is nothing but a SOAP integration. This is how we integrate the two Salesforce organizations using the partner visual, right? So you have to follow these steps not only for this SOAP but also for any other integration. Even when you integrate, so in the place of target, if your system is SAP, or if your system is SQL Server or any other system, you have to follow the same steps that we did in today's session. So your assignment. Now talk about the assignment. So before that, let me copy the code. So once, so I will give you an assignment. So once after the assignment, we'll talk about the clarifications. So if you have any questions, we'll talk about this. And this is the Visualforce page code, and this is the class code. So the integration part is more valuable. So just to go through the class notes. So it helps you to understand how to integrate the systems. So your assignment is, so consider two Salesforce organizations again. My requirement is, I would like to perform the search functionality. So what is the search here? The search operation is, there are two Salesforce organizations again. One is the source and another one is the target. Just to create a Visualforce page in the target here. Just to create a Visualforce page. In the Visualforce page, place a text box and a button. So this text box is for the city. So you enter the city value and click on search button. So what you have to do is, when I click on search button, I would like to pass the parameter to the source. Just to pass this parameter to the source organization. And what are the customers you find based on this billing city? I return the list of customers back to the target and display those records in a page block table. So this is a good requirement. You try this. In case if you don't find the solution, I will show you in tomorrow's session. So you have to return the list in the form of wrapper. So just hint is, use wrapper list to return the list of records based on the city parameter. So first thing is, you have to use the same step, like you have to generate the partner visual, you have to write a web service where it receives a single parameter, that is city, and write the SOQL query and prepare the wrapper list and return the wrapper list to target. And in the target you have to write the same wrapper, so similar to the source, and you have to consume the partner visual and web service visual. By using partner visual and partner visual, you have to generate the session id and use the session id for your header element to hit the custom service. So like this. So once you hit the custom service, so you get the list of records. So in the above service, I got the success as a response. So in this service, you get the list of records, the wrapper records. So wrapper records you get and display them on your Visualforce page. How simpler it is. And we are left with the SOAP UI testing. So we'll talk about the SOAP UI testing again in tomorrow's session. Addition to that, so we'll talk about rest of the areas. So we'll talk about the SOAP API architecture and XML parsing, and what are the intro questions we expect in the integration area, and also so what are the different other visuals we have, like Apex visual, metadata visual, tooling visual. So we'll talk about those also, and then move to the REST integration. So maybe it takes another 5 hours of training so to complete the integration course. So let's see how it goes, right? So let's talk about the questions now. So let me know any questions. So we'll talk about the we'll have it another 15 minutes for the question clarifications on this particular area.